Yo, 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 welcome to the Gabe and Walt Show. My name is Gabe, and I'm joined by my other, better half. Okay, those are guys that follow me on the other podcast know that I have many better halves. But in this podcast, off of the title of the show, Walt, say what's up.
Say what's up.
Thank you guys for joining us this week for this episode. We did miss you guys for a week, and unfortunately, my other better half, Walt over here, underwent some shoulder reparations. I think he
Yep,
now is a cyborg and can blast off into the sky and take off all the evildoers
exactly.
when he finishes recovering. Unfortunately, that's we got to take a day off or a week off rather to kind of rehabilitate before we can start hitting buttons with that arm.
Actually, I still can't hit buttons with the arm.
You still can't hit buttons.
I'm still one winging it. So
Oh
it's
man, how much mobility do you have in that arm?
I could move from the elbow down.
Okay, but
So,
you can't lift. You can't. You okay.
yeah, I can't do that yet. PT probably starts for me in about 2 weeks or so.
So you could basically do like the Mr. Roboto dance.
Yeah, I could do this with my other hand. That's about it. Kung Fu grip, right?
Oh man, we got action Walt with the Kung Fu grip.
There you go. With
So-
only 3 points of articulation, not 4.
All right. Well, before we get started, just to get through this, once again, thank you guys for joining us. Please like, rate, share, and subscribe. It's the best way to support the podcast by getting the word out there that we exist. So we appreciate y'all. We got a lot of stuff to kind of get through regarding the NFL postseason and all the craziness that's happening. Some basketball stuff, some baseball stuff. So why don't we just jump right into football? Well, please tell me, for those of us, including myself, that don't know enough about football, what's been going on. Especially on the Jets side.
Yeah, it is the start of the. I always find this funny how they reference this, the legal tampering period, in NFL.
It's funny because this is actually, I think maybe it's the first time that I realized that they called it that. But when I started hearing those terms around, I was like, oh, is there like some sort of other scandal that's happening regarding tampering and stuff like that? I had no idea until I realized that this is just what they call this part of the postseason, I guess.
Yeah, it's weird because I think it has to do a lot with the fact and I could be wrong, but Bill Belichick or some other, but I think for some reason Bill Belichick kind of pops into my head. He was kind of busted for
always Bill Belichick.
Yeah, he kind of got busted for reaching out to players before it was actually time. So they've kind of broken it down. So in the off season, you're not, once the off season finishes, you're not supposed to talk to other players, especially if they're under contract. But now with this legal tampering period, you can actually reach out to players who are under contract with other teams, who have just come off, they're just free agents, and you can actually start talking to them and offer them contracts. So
I think it's hilarious that Bill Belichick is at the root of every single problem.
Yeah,
in the NFL.
And I think it's him.
Not every problem, but
listen,
I just want to say that it's him.
You had Spygate where Eric Mangini kind of ratted him out, and he also got busted during the Super Bowl against the Rams, right? Way back when. So we got
Deflategate, we got Spygate. We have now Flores Gate.
It's crazy. It's crazy. He's kind of in the middle of everything, So
he's kind of like the old dad that embarrasses you at every single party. Like it's like, oh, he has all these accomplishments, but he's also the guy that's going to like do the oops.
Yep. It's very true.
Actually, before we get into this legal tampering phase of the discussion, the biggest NFL news to come out of this weekend is what?
I told you so. Brady's not retiring. Brady is
He
not
retired for
retiring.
all of what, like 3 weeks?
Yeah, that was it. Listen, there is you gotta look at it this way, right? Brady, we can't probably put ourselves in his position, but Brady has been at the pinnacle of his particular job function, employment, whatever you want to call it, for how many years?
Hmm.
And then just to walk away from it like that, like what does a guy like that do afterwards? And
Well,
I'm pretty sure that was part of the process for him because you
yeah.
go from doing all of these things to make sure you're on top, and all of a sudden you're not doing anything.
Well, it's not even that. I
You
think
know,
that we spoke about this before, that whether it was on a podcast or just completely separate outside of the podcast, I can't remember, but we did speak about this where it kind of seems like Brady wasn't planning on retiring, but because all these tributes were being done and everything, he kind of felt like he was pushed into it, into just acknowledging it just to get people to stop with the speculation. But like
there's a
even
simple
his
way.
own dad takes to social media to be like, hey, he's not retiring. Like nothing's
Yeah,
been set in stone. So that tells you that, like, yeah, I think maybe he was really considering coming back. And then when you think about the fact that he didn't have a bad season,
no, he
if it
didn't.
wasn't for Antonio Brown and some other little issues happening um to the team over the course of the season, especially during the
Injuries,
end of the season, you
injuries
know,
was a big part.
it's not that Tom Brady was now over the hill. It's just that, like, this, with the exception of a couple little things, he was right there, competing for the bowl, you know,
Yeah, and listen, he said he wanted to play until he was 45. He is what, 44 now?
I
So
guess.
he still had 1 year left. You know?
I don't think that that's the metric. I
No,
think the
no, no,
metric
no,
for
no, no.
him is that
Absolutely not.
he wants the 8 Super Bowls. He doesn't like the number 7. He wants
Yeah.
8. And I think that that's what
And
it is.
it's like you said, why you're going out on top, great. You know what? He would be one of the few players that do it and stuff, but it's clear he still has plenty of talk in the tank. You can make it a case he should have been the NFL MVP this year.
Yeah, I think so.
You know what I'm
I think
saying?
he definitely should have. I think that, like, I don't think that it should have gone to Aaron Rodgers. Um, but it is what it is. I think 8 Super Bowls is better than 4 MVPs. So
Yeah. So listen, at the end of the day, it also helps out the Bucks because he would have cost them a crap load of salary cap.
and they would have still had to replace him.
Exactly. So in a way, it kind of works out for both of them. Now it just remains to be seen whether all those free agents that the Bucks have will come back for that 1 year run.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's all Brady's promising at this point. He's got one more year. Let's run it back. Let's get back to the Super Bowl. Let's win the damn thing. So
Could you imagine that the Bucks they decide to convince Brady to come back for 1 year as their tactic to sign all these free agents?
hey, listen, it's quite
It's like, all
possible.
right, well, like if we could just get him to come back for 1 year, then we can lock in the rest of the team moving forward.
Yeah, but I don't think those guys are going to stay for more than a year. I think
Maybe.
they're probably signing 1 year contracts, knowing the fact that Brady's not coming back for that second year
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah.
So they'll make the push one more time. They may be able to attract free agents that are willing to take less to try and get to that
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
one Super Bowl push,
Yeah.
knowing that Brady's going to be super locked in and stuff. So this is going to help the Bucks. Now, whether they can sign everybody, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But that remains to
Well,
be
so
seen.
that was huge. That really was huge.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest story really since the last time we spoke. You know, on this
Yeah.
podcast. So yeah, but
So legal tampering,
legal tampering
whatever that is.
started out with a bang on Monday. A number of players have moved since then. The Jets and the Giants. The Jets have been particularly active. Giants not so much.
We all know
And
why the Giants haven't been able to, as much as I really want them. They just literally don't have the money to spend.
they are actually at this point. They did sign two free agents,
Hmm.
two offensive linemen. Which is probably a really good thing because if you really want to find out what Daniel Jones is all about, you're gonna have to protect them. So at
Yeah.
least they're doing the right things in terms of bringing those free agents. But as of right now, my understanding is that they are now $24 million over the cap. So they're going to have to either be restructuring players' contracts or probably cutting them outright. So I wouldn't be surprised if the net gain in the next couple of days is negative for them because they'll probably bring in two, but probably cut four or five, or at least try and restructure them. But it's gonna be a tough road
It's
for
a
the
little bit tough
Giants.
here. I don't. I think it's actually a good thing that we don't have the salary cap space because it allows Joe Shane and Dable to kind of
Yeah,
go in there,
take a
test
look at
the
what they have in
waters,
the
just
house.
take a look at what they have in the house, and still have the safety net of saying like, oh well, if we have a crap season, for example, they could be like, oh, we didn't have cap room in order to like make anything really happen last year. So they got like a little bit. They got like a little bit of a fallback,
Yeah.
if they don't do well. Because imagine if we had all the cap space and they could do whatever they want in this first year, and they go out and get these players or don't get that player, and then they have a crap season. Then what's the excuse? Obviously the excuse is going to be that, oh, it's our first year, but they have kind of a little bit of a fallback now.
If you really look at the free agent market the way it is right now, and it kind of like mirrors the draft this year. There's no true studs out there, but there's a lot of little pieces that will help you build the team. And I guess for the Giants, that's kind of a good thing, right? Because
Yeah.
you're not missing out
Yeah,
on
yeah, we're
any
not missing out on anything.
big,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
There's no,
You're not
yeah, it's,
mixing
it's
out
not a big
this
deal.
make it or break it stud that you'd be like, oh man, I wish we had him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's no one out there like in free agency either that's really worth like having to like kind of break the bank for. Not that we have any cap space to break the bank for with, but we're not really missing out on anything this year. That's why it kind of
Yeah.
makes sense to like give Dan Jones another year simply because there's nothing else out there anyway.
I mean, most of those pieces are gone already because you look at
You could have had
Russell,
Trubisky, but that's it.
right?
Russell Wilson, he was definitely out of the picture because we don't have the cap
And
space,
he
even if we had the
he was a
draft
trade.
capital.
Yeah, he was a
Yeah.
trade. Same thing with Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is a guy that got traded. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if he would necessarily fit with you guys again because of the cap. So again, there may have been some people out there, but if we're talking about realistically speaking, they probably wouldn't have fit well with the Giants considering their
Yeah.
salary cap issues. Jets, on the other hand, have been very active in the free agent market. I think, they have about $25 million under the cap just for free agents. I think it's a total of 31 million overall. That makes them the third team with the highest free agency cap space.
The third most viable team.
Yeah, and they've been doing their things. I mean, um, as it stands right now, and we're recording here on Tuesday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They've only lost one player. They lost their nose tackle, Fadatuski. But they've re-signed a couple of their pieces. They got Braxton Berrios back.
Yeah, that's great. But who wants
You know,
fettuccine anyway?
no, he was actually a
I'm
pretty yeah.
joking. I
No,
just
no,
wanted
I
to
know.
make that joke.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A little
But
bit
he was
delayed on that one though.
Yeah, he was actually a pretty good player for the Jets, but he was not a guy that I would have necessarily thrown money at.
Hmm.
So, it's sad to see him go, but not you know mind blowing and stuff. We signed Braxton Berrios, we signed Tevin Coleman, Lamarcus Joyner is coming back to New York, and we've signed a right guard, Lakeland Tomlinson. We've signed a tight end, the tight end from the Cincinnati Bengals, and we've signed two other people today. We signed a cornerback, DJ Reed, and we signed a safety.
It
Um,
sounds like you guys are legit in rebuild mode.
oh, absolutely. And you know what? There's gonna be some people that are looking at this free agent market because there was a guy out there that the Jets really really wanted. They wanted to get the safety from the Saints. I forgot what his name is. His last name was Williams, and he eventually ended up going to another team. Hugh Douglas refuses to overpay, at this point. And, I got to give him a lot of credit because if you look at some other guys, they probably would have said, you know what? here's a guy that we really, really want. We're not a very sexy team in terms of bringing us over here.
Yeah.
We're going to have to overpay to get the guy here.
Yeah.
And, this guy was really good, but is he worth $15 million a year for a safety?
That's
That's a
tough,
lot of
man.
that's a lot
That's
of
a lot
money.
of yeah. That's tough, man. That's
Yeah, and
tough.
so for a team that is a contender, you can make the case and say, okay, he's the last piece that we need. Let's bring him in.
Yeah, because you
For
could
a
win a
team,
bowl if you're a contender. If you're a contender, you throw
exactly,
the kitchen sink out there. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. If you're a team that's rebuilding, you don't want to put all your eggs in the basket on one guy. That especially a safety. And I hate to say it, safeties are they're very, very important. They're kind of like the quarterback of the defense over
yeah.
there, but it's clear that the Jets need a lot more than that. So I like the way Joe Douglas is managing his free agency so far. He's brought in um, some young guys, but young guys that have experience in the league to help out his young players. You know what I'm saying? DJ Reed is going to be a guy that's going to help the secondary because he may be, I think, 25 or 26 years old, but he's already been in the league a couple of years. So he can kind of help these rookies out, second year players now, and kind of build something with them and stuff. So
So
I
and
like what they're doing.
now I got an interesting question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Would this be on the table for you if it was? Because it's not. I mean, at least I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it is. But would you trade Zach Wilson for Deshaun Watson now that the Deshaun Watson has been cleared of all the stuff and there's no, you know, pending criminal anything going on? The cases were dropped. Would you trade Zach Wilson for Deshaun Watson?
That's a tough one.
Because you're
I
talking about like somebody that you don't know if he's good yet for someone that you know is good.
That is true, but you know what? You're then it, again. We go back to this whole thing where it's like, is this team ready to take that next step?
Mm-hmm.
And it's clear the Jets aren't. So you know, there's a part of me that's going to say I would not make that trade for two reasons. First of all, again, like I said, you're going to be bringing in a guy that is going to take a huge part of your salary cap, which you desperately need to build your team to get better, right? And second of all, he's already got character issues. Whether all these things went away or not, the fact is he was cleared because there wasn't enough to charge him, but he was not. They did not say that he was innocent.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
No, I mean
you know,
there's still
and there's
civil cases, and
exactly.
these civil cases are probably going to be settled out of court. To be
Oh,
honest,
absolutely,
they always
absolutely.
are. They're never going
You
to go
know,
to court.
but you're already talking about a guy who may or may not have character issues, and is that the guy that you want coming into your organization and kind of messing around with, especially this team, a young team, an impressionable team, a team that does not know how to be in the NFL, and you're going to have your main guy with all these issues kind of surrounding him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it works well for the Jets. I really, really don't. So, me personally, as much as I like Deshaun Watson, and I actually wanted him when we had the opportunity to draft him,
Yeah.
and we actually let him go. But looking at what's happened since then, he is a talent, but there are consequences to that talent that may impact the team negatively. So I wouldn't take a chance on that.
Well,
You know,
it's funny because there's some stuff that just kind of came out either in the last like hour or so or today at some point today. But do you know who now just jumped into the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes?
cool.
The Browns.
That makes sense. I know they're not happy with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so but again, they're a
So then where does
team.
Mayfield
They're a
go, do you think?
team. Oh, Mayfield will go anywhere. I mean, quarterbacks are not a dime a dozen. For God's sake, Mitch Trubisky
Yeah.
is getting tons of money. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Ryan Fitzpatrick is still out there making money. So I mean,
Yeah,
if
that's
he
true.
can do it, then Baker Mayfield will definitely have
No,
a
it's funny
place to
because I
stop.
do like Baker Mayfield. I like him as a quarterback. I think that I sort of like his personality. I think that like a lot of the stuff that has come out over the last like couple years have to do with the fact of where he was, on the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it would be. I don't think that it would be great necessarily for Deshaun Watson to go to the Browns, but I don't know. Maybe it will.
Well, they have
So I
talent. They
Yeah,
do
they
have
do,
talent.
but there's like a stigma with playing for the Browns.
No, I know, I get it. And listen, you have to give credit where credit is due. Baker Mayfield took that team that was floundering and lousy for how many years, and he elevated that team to a
Yeah,
playoff
yeah,
contender.
yeah, yeah.
He may have overstayed his welcome there. He's the type of guy that his personality, you love him if he's on your team, you hate him if you're playing against, right? He's got that brash, that swagger and stuff like that. And who knows, maybe it's kind of that whole thing is kind of run
I
its
just
course
wonder
over
would
in
he would
Cleveland.
he, I wonder if he would fit in blue,
No, I don't. I no no, and but
even
there's a
as a
reason.
backup.
Well, as a backup, I mean, it's
He's
fine,
definitely not
but
playing a backup.
well, he's I don't know if his arm is built for the Meadowlands though. Oh, I'm sorry, MetLife. MetLife Stadium.
Yes, you can also
I
just call it Giant Stadium.
yeah, it's true. You know, no, no. Listen, that's one of the biggest gripes that I have. There's two gripes I have with MetLife Stadium. Right. First of
Hmm.
all, the Jets had the opportunity to go get their own stadium and chose not to.
Hmm.
And the second thing is that they chose to build that monstrosity. That is probably one of the ugliest stadiums in the United States.
It
You
is
look at
not that
you look at
ugly.
you look at places like SoFi Stadium. SoFi
SoFi
Stadium
doesn't
is
count. SoFi is
gorgeous.
yeah, but that's like literally the newest stadium that is also like the
MetLife
most.
isn't all that far away.
I
What
understand
has
that, but
been
we're
that?
talking about SoFi Stadium is also a state of the art stadium that can't be compared to any stadium. Period.
But there's a lot of stadiums that are
Yeah,
way
I know,
better
but it's
than
not
than
that.
Mets.
It's not
And,
that.
and it's not like you're looking at MetLife Stadium and saying, you know what, yeah, this is a 50-year-old dinosaur. What have they been open for like 10 years or so?
It's not that
You
bad.
had the opportunity. And so you take the Meadowlands, right, which was clearly an old stadium. And what do? You make the MetLife Stadium almost the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
What's the point?
Well, I know that, but I'm just saying, like, if Meadowlands was good, why is MetLife not good?
But I'm saying you had the opportunity to
Yeah, yeah,
modernize. You
yeah. I
didn't
know,
modernize.
I
What?
know,
The only
I
thing is
know.
you added a couple of screens outside. MetLife
Those
Stadium,
tickets
I
are
hate.
expensive.
Listen, MetLife Stadium, I hate to say it, is an ugly stadium. It really is. So compared to some of them out there. Anyway, I know we're getting off track here, um, but like I said, the Jets are kind of rocking it right now.
They
They
are, man. Like
they
yesterday was like kind of like Giants hell, where every single update was a gangrene update. And I'm like, where the hell are my guys?
well, like I
And
said,
and and
you
the first
kind of
news and the
expect
first
it
and
though,
the
right?
first news was, oh, Ingram is now going over.
How do you
I don't
feel
know.
about that?
You know, I like Ingram because I think Ingram was such a solid player. He wasn't like a superstar, but he wasn't. He was reliable. He was somebody that you can count on, and he made a lot of. He was pretty clutch too. So it's kind of tough to not have him. I would have liked to have seen him under Dable,
Hmm.
but it's not a piece that I'm like that I'm on my knees and crying to the football gods. Why did they do this? So it is what it is. Again,
Yeah.
right now I'm in the camp of like I'm gonna let these guys do anything and everything that they want to do, and I'm gonna back them every single which way, no matter what decision they do for this first year, because that's what you do as a fan. You
Hmm.
back your teams. Okay. Now, if after this first year we don't have any kind of improvement, then I'm gonna start asking questions. Year after that, we still don't improve. Then I'm gonna start hating on them.
Yeah.
But right now, Joe, Shane, and Dable, they got my full support.
There you go. So listen, with the Giants, it's going to take some time. I think any Giant fan has to look at this realistically and say, you know what, you guys are in salary cap, hell, but at least it seems like the general manager knows what he's doing. He's got, so there's a future for you guys. So I would look at it that way. Um, just another couple of things here. Tampa Bay gets another wide receiver, and they take it away from Atlanta. And so this is kind of like what we were talking about before, right? Brady's back. Let's see how many guys we can kind of bring in to reload and get ready. So,
Yeah.
they took Russell Gage from Atlanta. Russell Gage is a 26-year-old wideout who posted a 71% success rate against man coverage last year. So Brady gets another target on top of Mike Evans, on top of Godwin when he comes back from injury. Gronkowski, we
As
don't
if
know if
Brady
he's
needed
coming
it
back.
anymore.
So yeah, so Tampa is going to be okay. Tampa's going to be okay.
Well, so we're there on football. What about baseball? Have you been following anything baseball or basketball while you've been recovering the last week or so?
I have not.
Have you
Recovery's.
you haven't been able to watch any games, Knicks games?
I watched a couple of minutes here before
Mm-hmm.
before I had to jump out and grab some painkillers and stuff like that. And then after that, it's over. It's just a blur,
Were
right?
the painkillers because of the shoulder or because of the game?
Oh, totally because of the game. Forget about the shoulder. The shoulder's fine. Listen, the Knicks.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Knicks. I
Yeah,
mean, because last week was a very interesting week. Okay, last week the Knicks, they had like a little mini streak going. They won 3 on the road. Okay,
got lucky.
what do you mean got lucky? They didn't get lucky. They just played really well against some really good teams, and then they played really well still against the teams that they lost to. We still have an issue closing on the fourth. We lost a nail biter. The game against the Nets was literally wire to wire, like end on end. And don't forget that KD is still, if not the best, one of the top 3 best players in the entire league.
Yeah, but you know
And
what?
he dropped 56 on them. Okay,
Because
come on now.
Kyrie wasn't playing and Seth Curry wasn't playing. I mean,
Okay,
come on,
okay. So let me ask you a question. Would you put what team would you pick? The Nets without Kyrie and without Seth Curry, but they have KD, or the Knicks with all their players available?
Oh, the Nets.
Why? Because of KD.
Because they have KD.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that still doesn't mean that they beat the Nets at full strength. They didn't. They
I
were
understand
missing.
that they didn't, but
They were
it's just
missing
that
2 out of the top 3 guys.
it's still a inconceivable thing to play that well against him when it's a night that he dropped 56 points.
The reason he dropped 56 points is because he had to. He had to carry that
I
team.
understand that, but that's
You
what
know
I'm
what I'm saying?
saying. It's a different kind of player, and it sucks. It would have been great for them to beat him, but you know what? You can't if you lose by 1 point to the Nets, it can't just automatically be like, all right, when we win, awesome. When we lose, even if it's by 1 point, the entire team sucks. That's what it seems like. And you know me, we do the Randall report over here. You know that
I know.
I hate on Randall when I need to hate on Randall, and I hate on the Knicks when I need to hate on them. But I got to give credit where credit's due. They played to the wire with against one of the greatest players of all time.
Okay.
Okay, that's it. That's all you have to say. Okay.
I have been vastly. We have difference of opinions with the Knicks because I have not been on the Knicks bandwagon all year, regardless of whether they win or lose, because I still see the same issues pop up with them over and over and over again. And listen, a broken clock is right twice a day, right? So for the Knicks,
But 3 times in a row,
things happen. I mean, it is the
come
NBA. You
on.
know what I'm saying? People
Give them a little bit of credit.
I will give them the credit that they are playing hard, right? And that's the one thing that, up until this point you can say about this Knicks team is that they haven't given up on the season yet. But this is not a playoff team. Let's not mistake it at all. You know what I'm saying?
They're not a playoff team, but come on, man, we can't just keep ragging on them forever when they're playing as good as they're playing as hard and as good as they can play. You know,
Okay.
clearly we have things missing on our team, pieces missing on our team. We still have a lot of injury issues with our players, especially
It's
when Cam Reddish was starting to get started. All of a sudden now he's out for the rest of the season. You know,
Yeah,
um,
but even if you bring all these pieces back, they're still not a playoff team. There's still the work that needs to be done with this team.
so
This is
you don't think losing by 3 points to the Nets, losing by 4 points to the Grizzlies, that there's no credit there for the Knicks?
I'm
The
sorry as
Grizzlies are one of the best. They are in the top of the top of the league right now with John Morant and everything.
listen, when I used to play football back in high school,
This
one of the
isn't
things
football.
no, but listen, this applies, right?
Oh my gosh!
Our
How
coach used to
go?
say there is no such thing as moral victories. Either you win or you lose. That's it. Now
Okay, and I'm not. Oh,
you
right,
lose, right? And you hope that that losing teaches you something. But at the end of
for
the day, it's
sure,
still a loss.
for
And
sure. Absolutely,
to quote,
absolutely agree.
I'm gonna quote somebody else, the Minnesota Vikings coach Danny Green. They are who we thought they are. The Knicks are not a playoff team. They're just
Okay,
not
and
that
that's fine.
good.
I'm not saying that they are. I'm not saying
And
that they are, but I just don't think that like we should be ragging on them that bad. Like if you look at some of these comments, it's they win and they get on a 3 game win streak, and it's like, oh man, like we're back. It's all great, and I don't believe that. I didn't believe that they were back. Don't
mhm,
get me wrong. But then they lose one game by 4 points, or they lose one game by 1 point, and it's fire the whole team.
it's been 10 years of misery with the Knicks. We've seen this play, but we've
What
seen
do
this
they?
playbook
What
before.
does Tom
You know
Thibodeau
what I'm
have
saying?
anything to do with what happened 10 years ago? This is my issue. Like
But the thing
it's
is, Gabe,
how
Gabe,
could
Gabe, Gabe,
all
Gabe,
right, hold on,
Gabe.
hold on. All right, how
Listen,
could you expect Randall to not be upset and like crazy with the fans if this is the reaction when they
let
lose
me
by 1 point?
let me ask you a question, okay?
Hmm.
Coming off what happened last year, did you not think this team was ready to take the next step?
I did absolutely.
And has that happened?
No, it has not.
So you cannot say that people are not disappointed in this team and vocally showing it when you had the expectation that this year was going to be the year that we're going to take the next step. And instead, what we're doing is that we're, especially in the last 2 months or so, we've had this team look like they're gang beaters in the first two periods of in the first half of all of these games, only to see 25 point, you know, uh 25 point leads, 29 point leads, 30 point leads disappear
We have
within an instant.
we have an issue. We have an
So
issue with crumbling under pressure. There's no question about it. And
okay,
I'm
so
not
then you know
saying
what?
no. I'm not
There's a
saying
reason
no.
why people are being negative about this team
You
because
can be negative about, but I'm just saying, like, come on, like, just one, like, you got to be a little bit objective. You lose one game by 1 point when you have really good play from most of the players on the team, and they made some mistakes that cost them the game by a point. And then it's instantly, this guy's the most trash person I've ever seen. Throw the entire team out is literally everything that you see on social media. I think that that's
yeah,
unfair, and
but
that's the kind of
okay,
thing that would make
okay.
me want to flip off
But
fans too.
see, you just hit it. You're talking about social media. Social media is prone to extremes.
Yeah, that's
Either
what I'm
they're
saying.
praising you or they're hating you.
I know, and that's the
I'm
thing
just
that I
telling
don't.
you.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you. I've been on them since the beginning of the year.
yeah. No,
I
just
have. I
so have I.
haven't. I
So have I.
haven't. I haven't fluctuated at this. At all throughout this run.
Well,
I've
look,
always said
I'm gonna enjoy
this
them when
is
they're
not.
good.
Oh, absolutely. But I've
Yeah.
always said this is not a playoff team. They're not
Yeah, no,
making
I
the
don't. I
playoffs
don't
this
think
year.
that I
You
don't
know.
think that they're a playoff team. I don't think that they're a great team either. Okay, I'm just saying, like I enjoy them when they play well. I give credit when they play hard, but I'm not gonna beat them down when they lose. Now, when they lose, huge leads in the fourth quarter, yeah, I'm gonna beat them down. When they lose by 30, 40 points in total, yeah, I'm gonna beat them down. But I'm not gonna beat them down for good, hard, honest effort.
But listen, I did start this conversation by saying that I do believe that these guys are working hard, so I'm not taking that away
Yeah.
from them. You know what I'm saying? I just don't think they're a good team. And you know what? I'm gonna put it out there. This is not a good team. I fully expect, and I don't know if it's gonna happen because we haven't heard boo from the general manager on what the plan
Uh,
is.
do we have a general manager?
I
I
don't
didn't
know,
realize that we did
but I don't think we ever had
because I
one
never say a
because
single word.
Well, listen, he's was he before he became the general? He was a player agent.
Yeah.
What possesses the Knicks to go out and get a player agent? What they he thought that he's a great evaluator of talent because he knows how to sign contracts. I mean, come on, seriously, you know. So I think that that kind of boils into the frustration that we as Knicks fans have also because we see last year what could could potentially happen with this team, right? This year we're seeing the exact opposite, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then at the same time, we're not hearing of a plan.
Yeah,
What's the
I don't know
plan
what the
for
game
this
plan
team?
is. I don't know what's exactly going on. I think that like this year is really going to be a wash, which sucks because I think that there's there's there is I still think that there's something there. I just think that we're missing one or two key little pieces, maybe one or two key things that need to happen in how they prepare for games because it's not like they're not playing they're not playing good basketball. It's just they're not closing on that
And,
good basketball play.
and you know, it's funny
I
because
mean, and of course, I say that with an asterisk because there are definitely nights where they are absolutely atrocious.
right, right. But I do find it interesting that this kind of quote unquote good streak that the Knicks are on is coinciding with the fact that Emmanuel quickly is playing very well at the point guard position. You know, he's
Yeah,
averaging I think like 25 minutes a night now. And I believe he's averaging like 15 points a game. He's a guy that knows how to hit three. The crowd
he's playing
actually
really well
falls
defensively too.
yeah, and the crowd is falling in love with him. He's got that little floater that he does that, you know, it seems
Yeah,
unstoppable and stuff. That's what the Knicks need. They need a point guard. They need somebody because the problem is that when you start flowing the offense, especially at the end of games through Randall, Randall is bringing the ball up court. Everybody shuts down and it becomes an isolation game. And that's where we lose our leads. We have to have that point guard to bring the ball up so that Randall, Barrett, they can get into their positions in the offense and do what they do best. When you have Randall bringing the ball up, that's a recipe for disaster. No matter how good you think he is, you know, he's not a guy that should be bringing the ball up and starting the offense, you
hmm
know? So, let's see what happens. I mean, quickly is a guy that, you know, he's hot and cold. Right now he seems
yeah,
to be hot. And the Knicks are playing better. So, you know,
yeah. I mean, we'll see. We still got a few key games in order to possibly still get into the play-in tournament. Um, I just want to see as like maybe call me a glutton for punishment, but I still want to see them in the play-in tournament. I think it's
I don't.
if it's doable, then do it. That's the way that I look at things.
Yeah, but you know what? It we've seen this play with the Jets also. They you know, they have a horrible season and then toward the end of the season they play well and everybody starts getting high hopes and say, "Hey, maybe this team is not that far away." And then you go into the off season and you don't do anything to advance it and
I feel
the
you.
next
I
season
feel
you
you, man.
start it again.
I'm with
I
you.
I'm like, don't make the playoffs because in that way it shows that you need work done on this team. You know,
Yeah,
and
no,
I
I feel
know
you.
as a
I mean, I
fan,
don't think that anybody disputes that we need a lot of work. So
yeah, I don't want the fool's gold at the end of the
you want
year
to know
where
who else needs
they go over
work?
there. Who's
You want
that?
to know who the Yankees need work?
Yankees are doing well. You know, Yankees. Well, you know what?
I don't know.
What did you think about that trade for Donaldson?
Well, actually, I like the trade. I like the trade because I didn't like Gary Sanchez on the team. Gary
Okay.
Sanchez was terribly defensively, and that was our biggest issue. Aside from the fact that we aren't hitting the way that we're used to hitting,
Hmm.
prior to the last season, the previous 4 seasons, we were in the top three in run scored. And last season, we were 19th in the entire league run scored.
Right.
So we're not hitting the ball, but it also doesn't help when we have a terrible, Pee Wee League defensive player like Gary Sanchez. You know what I
And
mean?
you know
And
what?
it just,
He hits home
it's
runs, but he doesn't hit for average. So what's the point?
yeah.
You
So it
know?
doesn't matter. Now we got a player that's a little bit older for not a little bit older, but definitely
Yeah, he's
older.
much
But
older.
he's a veteran. He's a real pro. He knows how to hit. He knows how to be clutch, and he can play defense, which is what we're lacking. A lot of our games last year, even though they were very low scoring games, a lot of our games we lost because we didn't play well defensively. You
Hmm.
know, we would score one or two runs. Yeah, a little bit of a slow game when you have an only like a 1 run game and stuff. But our record we would be very, very different. We just had a little bit of defense, kind of like the exact same thing that's happening with the Knicks. You know,
How
um,
do you feel about the so-called beef that Donaldson has with Garrett Cole?
I think that when it comes to playing on the same team, that all that stuff gets squashed. I don't think that they're
Yeah, I
gonna
think so
care.
too.
I think that they're professionals. They get paid way too much to beef with each other when all they want to do is win games in general. You know,
Yeah,
maybe they don't have like the most congenial relationship like outside of the stadium and stuff.
you don't think they're going out for tea and crumpets afterwards?
I don't think they're going for tea and crumpets, but who knows? We don't know. The whole spider tack issue and all that stuff like that was Donaldson. Unfortunately, used Garrett Cole as a as an example, but he's referring to everyone in the league. He
Hmm.
wasn't specifically saying that like this one player uses it and I'm gonna name him and that's it. He's talking about it being a problem across the league, which led to the ban on it and the new rules checking the balls and the mitts and all that stuff randomly mid game and when you come out. So Donaldson just brought to light something that was perceived to be an issue, and Garrett Cole happened to be in the crosshairs, or not in the crosshairs, but just collateral damage. You
Well,
know,
it's interesting that
because
Brian Cashman.
I guarantee you that he would not have called out even if it was a player that he didn't agree with on his own team, he wouldn't have called out a teammate by name,
Hmm.
even if he knew it was going to affect them.
Yeah. Well,
So,
like I said, it's interesting because Brian Cashman, before the trade went down, actually spoke to Cole just to kind of give him a heads up on the whole situation and stuff.
mhm.
So, I think that was a very classy move on
Yeah,
Brian
yeah.
Cashman's part. Um, with this trade, though, it does seem like the Yankees are now out of the Carlos Correa conversation.
I could give a crap about
And
Carlos Correa. The guy that I really want is Freddie Freeman.
yeah, well, I don't think they go for him either because they're kind of set now with this trade. They have their first baseman. They've upgraded defensively, third base, shortstop, second base, and catcher because of it. And the shortstop, they have a guy in waiting. So the guy that they brought in is basically just kind of holding the
Yeah, but I don't
holding
know.
the
I still want
position.
Freddie Freeman.
You
Like,
know.
however, Freddie Freeman just like screams pinstripes. That name, the look, the way that he plays. That's Yankees all day. If this was George
Hmm.
Steinbrenner, he would have been made this, and he would have made the team make it happen.
Yeah,
Because it's like some people exude the pinstripe look and feel. Like Roger Clemens, the Rocket. He no matter where he played, he just had that look and feel of a Yankees heavy beat down mean pitcher, and Freddie Freeman to me is that kind of a player that like when you look at him and you envision him as a Yankee, it just makes sense, so whatever they got to do to make it work, they should make it work.
yeah,
Put Freddie Freeman in the first, put a DJ in second, and we're good to go.
yeah. Well, there's still rumblings that the Yankees may still be in that conversation with Freddie Freeman. Um, the
It
latest
sounds like he's going
rankings,
to Boston though.
yeah, probably, which
And
sucks
that's
for
the other thing
us.
too. We should pick him up just so that that Boston doesn't.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens.
God, I miss George Steinbrenner.
The uh, the latest rankings had the Yankees third and the Mets fourth. Do you think this changes that in any way?
Um,
Do the Yankees move up because of the trade, or they kind of stay where they're at right now? You know,
I think they stay where they're at. I mean, I'm surprised that the Mets are even fourth. I think that the Mets would rate higher, to be honest.
yeah. I mean, they brought in they look like they have the makings of a really really good pitching staff here. You know,
Yeah,
so we'll see. I
but I'm
mean,
not giving credit to Mets for anything, so the Mets can suck it. Sorry, Mets fans.
Jesus Christ, I don't even know what to say after that.
The Met fans are literally the worst fans in all of
Listen, I
like they're
hate to
worse than
say
Philly
it.
fans. They're just obnoxious.
I do hate to say it because I do have Mets fans friends that are Mets fans, but I do have to say, you know what, they kind of rub Yankee fans the wrong way because, dude, guys, you haven't won anything.
I know. They're
Stop
kind of
acting
like
like
Nets
you're number
fans.
one.
They're kind of like Nets fans. Well, you got somebody.
Jesus.
You got Daddy Cohen with money now. Oh well, welcome to the club. Now you know how we feel.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've been doing it for
Except that
how
we
many
still
years?
been winning.
Yeah, Jesus. But they do have the makings of a pretty decent pitching staff. So I'm just glad that baseball is back.
That I am super ecstatic
And
about.
you were right. I was wrong because I thought this was going to drag out much, much longer.
Nah,
But
man.
you know, they did it. So what is it? April, the
April
second week
7th.
of April, right?
April
Oh, it's the,
7th. April
the first
7th will
week.
be the official opening day.
So we got less than a month away for
Yeah, man.
spring training to kick in and wrap up. So
Yeah, yeah.
how many injuries? How many injuries are we going to get the first month of the season?
Oh
I could
man,
I
I don't
could
know,
just
man.
I could just imagine
The one thing
everybody's
that I
going
do
down.
want to know is how healthy DJ LeMahieu is, because last year he was really plagued and it really affected him. But I think that, like, hopefully, not that I think, I hope that those issues have subsided, and then we can get the real DJ back. Because
Yeah,
we paid a hefty sum of money for DJ.
listen, if
So,
he's back, we're gonna have a hell of a lineup. That's for damn
yeah.
sure. You know.
You know what
So
else? I'm really happy to be back.
what's up?
You, welcome back.
Hey, thank you. You know,
Glad to have you
even
sitting
if
in that chair
this
across from me digitally.
one armed is fine.
One arm is cool. One arm is cool.
Cyborg. And
Anyway,
we have the money. We can rebuild him. We can
any
make him better.
anything else that we're missing?
Not that I'm aware of. I
All right.
mean,
Well, then we got
there's
another week of sports ahead. Sports
no
news, really.
scandals.
Sports news, really. Hopefully, no
Oh, I
scandals.
I do have to say one thing, and
What's up?
this may or may not be sports related, depending on your take on the quote unquote sport. Um, it saddens me to hear the passing of Scott Hall.
Oh man, dude, we should have opened with that. Oh,
Yeah,
that hurt too,
I wanted to speak about that and I completely forgot about it because I'm still under the
dude.
painkillers. But
Yeah,
he was a guy that I used to watch wrestling back in the 80s and 90s.
yeah. Me too, man.
To me, that was probably the best period that the WWF.
Just
Oh, I'm sorry, the
the
WWE. Yeah,
attitude era, and
the
the
Monday Night
NW, yeah,
Wars.
the Monday Night Wars. Man, I want to go back to watching some of these documentaries, some of these old matches, because Razor
Yeah,
Ramon was one of the main reasons I fell in love with wrestling and with Shawn Michaels, because the first match I think that I saw that I really, really was like, oh man, Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler, was his first ladder match with Razor Ramon. And even though
hmm
he lost that match, I also, like, it was just like cool. You have like HBK and then like the bad guy, like the way that they wrestled. And that match I think is rated, fifth all time of WrestleMania matches as far as performances go, because we know it's a performance and
hmm
all that. But not only that, just the camaraderie that like Scott Hall had with Shawn Michaels and Diesel and the rest of the Wolf Pack, so to speak, DX
hmm
and NWO and all that, and how big of an effect they had on the industry. Because when they split up, essentially business wise, when they business wise split up, and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash went to WCW, they were still best friends, and they figured out, like, between Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Shawn Michaels, Diesel, and Razor Ramon, they figured how they can manipulate both companies to serve them as
Yeah.
professionals. So they created the whole DX versus NWO thing just so that they're still technically working together. And
hmm
it was the most fun era. And
It really
Scott Hall
was.
with the WCW surveys and all his quotes, man.
Scott
Man,
Scott
it's sad.
Hall
It's
Scott
sad.
Hall always I'll always remember Scott Hall because he quote unquote beat my favorite wrestler of all time. That's Goldberg when he had his undefeated streak going. I believe at the
Yeah,
time.
he's the one that killed it. He's the
Yeah,
one that took it away.
it was a match versus Kevin Nash, and he was about to win his 173rd straight, 174th straight match, and here comes Scott Hall, complete with the stun gun to knock out Goldberg and give the victory over to Kevin Nash.
Yeah,
Those were some great times, and you
it
know what?
really
It's
was. It really
unfortunate,
was.
and you can see that the love that everybody in the wrestling community had, because the outpouring of condolences and love that you see on social media and Twitter and all that other stuff, it just shows you the measure of the man that Scott Hall was. So he
And
will be
also, I mean, the
missed.
one quote, and I would like to close this by leaving it with you guys. The quote that kind of immortalizes him, but is also inspirational because he dealt with a lot of demons. He dealt with
Hmm.
drug abuse and things like that, but he rehabilitated himself. He really worked to get himself back to being a healthy person. And then this unfortunate situation happened, and now we have the passing of Scott Hall. But this really is one of the greatest quotes that you can have from someone as legendary as Scott Hall. Hard work pays off, dreams come true, bad times don't last, but bad guys do. Damn. Rest
There
in
you
peace,
go.
Scott Hall.
Rest in peace, man. And that's going to be it for us, right?
Yeah, man.
So
So anyway, it was good. It was good hanging with you guys. It was good talking to you, Walt, and catching up with everyone. Remember, please like, rate, share, and subscribe. And see you guys next week.
later.
Peace.